So the president is deploying strategic tariffs to level the playing field and put America first, but not everyone on Wall Street is happy. But still, the argument remains. America needs an economy that protects America's interests, not just Wall Street.
The short-termism is what's killing us as a nation. Wall Street's interests are not always aligned with Main Street's interests. Wall Street is only concerned about Main Street as a consumer. All you want to do is keep the golden goose fat, but when does the golden goose get some of the gold?
The writing has been on the wall. Businesses are already making adjustments. Just this morning, Walmart demanding price cuts from Chinese suppliers to offset tariffs. U.S. toy factories seeing a surge in demand. Bitcoin jumping after President Trump announcing exemptions on certain tariffs. Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is delivering his keynote at the Economic Club of New York. We will be watching for his take on the economic impact and for questions from our very own Larry Kudlow. But still, the question remains. Are these headwinds or are they tailwinds pushing the U.S. towards a stronger, fairer trade deal? That's where I want to go with David Bahnsen, because we know typically you want a free market that works in a perfect world, right, with no tariffs. But we don't live in a perfect world. How do you feel about this?
The fact that we don't live in a perfect world is why I feel so strongly about this, because I believe governmental involvement makes an imperfect world more imperfect. I don't believe in a utopian vision where the government can centrally plan what the right prices are to be paid amongst economic actors. The people that I want to set a price are those with skin in the game, those who are actually participating in a transaction. And I don't believe that tariffs facilitate that. And ultimately, this whole argument that this is all being done towards getting to a better deal, I'm totally open to that argument. If it's all negotiation and so forth, we'll let it play out. But that's not what's being said. It's being said that Canada's ripping us off because they sell us more stuff than we sell them. I got my hair cut this morning. I have never sold her anything. And she has constantly cut my hair. And I don't think it's an unfair transaction. And that's the analogy I use all the time, because when it comes to a country selling us things, it takes willing, free buyers and sellers.
But what about if the other country isn't free? Howard Lutnick this morning was making comments where he said in aggregate, about on average-ish, China puts about a 50% tariff on our goods. So if the other side isn't playing fair, we have to respond, do we not?
But that example you use makes my point. Why are we using a China example when we're talking about Canada and Mexico? So let's discuss China about China. Let's discuss Canada about Canada. By poisoning the well, by cross-pollinating them all together, it's making the conversation harder, not easier.
Can I be a little optimistic
Sure.
here? Because Kevin Hassett, who plays a major role in this administration, was in the first Trump administration. He wrote a book about that called The Drift. Kevin is now the director of National Economic Council. That's the same job that Larry Kudlow had when he was there. And he writes about the split within the Trump administration in the first term. And he said you had the trade warriors. That was one group. It was represented by Peter Navarro, Stephen Miller, and some others. And then you had what he calls the practitioners, who was Larry Kudlow, people who have your opinion, basically free traders. And he says at the end of this description of these two groups, he says the president loved listening to the trade warriors to drive his agenda, but he needed the others to keep him from driving into a ditch. I think he still has kind of a balance represented by Kevin Hassett on the one side, and Peter Navarro is still there on the other side. So you do have a balance, and in the end, if the markets continue to react as they have been the past few days, I think that's going to click for Donald Trump, and I think he's going to make more of an effort to make a deal with Mexico and Canada. And by the way, Mexico and Canada are a little nervous. For all their brouhaha about we're standing tough and everything, they have a lot more to lose from a trade war than we do.
Well, Brian, we've given the Federal Reserve pushback because we think that they're too driven by the markets. Don't you think it's good that the president is not being driven by the equity markets yet?
Well, I don't know if he's being driven or not driven. I mean, I like that he pays attention to equity markets. I like that he cares about business in America, investors in America. I would say on Canada, just to push back a little bit. So you brought the China example up.
Yeah.
There's a Montreal Economic Institute, is a free market think tank in Canada. They said about 20% of Canada's economy is basically off limits to the United States and other foreign investors. So I think that's interesting, right? That's not free trade. I think bringing those barriers down would be good. Look, we're going through all this brouhaha right now, and you've got
It's a
Trump
statistical
saying
term for anyone who wants to.
brouhaha. Very technical when I talk. But here's where I think we're going to land at the end of the day. I think at the end of the day, and you can already see this with the April 2nd deadline that President Trump is referencing with regard to Mexico.
Which is the fourth deadline now set. Totally.
Yeah, I know. I get that. But the April 2nd is when he said we're going to do the reciprocal tariffs thing. Right. And I think at the end of the day, David, to your point about the trade warriors versus the market guys, I think on April 2nd, we're going to get to this reciprocal trade deal where you can look out into the world and say, what do they tariff us? We're going to do the same to them. And I think that's actually going to give small businesses, large businesses, much more clarity about the road ahead.
Jerry, we want to come to you on clarity, because if you're a small business, if you're a consumer,
right,
you need clarity. If I'm an auto manufacturer and I get this 30-day reprieve, but I don't, what does 30 days give me that I didn't have before? Then that's impacting you if you go to the car lot and you're trying to figure out, do I buy a car now or in 30 days? If you're a business, how do I invest in machinery now versus 30 days from now? And you're starting to see, at least within the soft data, we'll get hard data tomorrow with the payrolls number, the jobs data, but the soft data has been a little bit to the weaker side.
To the weaker side. And I got to tell you, consumers are no different than businesses, CEOs. You are the CEO of your household, right? And if you have questions, you don't know how things are going to work out, you don't know if you're going to get those tax cuts later this year, you might hold back on spending, you might wait. And I think that's some of what's going on. Look, we've seen consumer confidence tank. It's had its biggest decline in February in 4 years. We're seeing weekly jobless claims popping recently. But I want to say something else about tariffs. And this is born of my family's own experience in the middle of the country in Western North Carolina, where NAFTA and other free trade agreements essentially killed thousands, tens of thousands of jobs. It is time for a rethink, and it's time for a rethink for the American people. I know this is difficult, and like Trump said in his speech, we're going to go through some tough times here, might be some headwinds, but ultimately, I would like to see American workers and families have an equal opportunity, equal footing.
And I think that's a very important point, that we not decide which American workers. I want American workers to have an equal footing. If we talk about tariffs that help one industry and hurt another, all we've done is switch who is feeling the pain. So NAFTA absolutely costs certain people jobs. It costs families and sectors jobs. Taxing imports hurts American exporters. So that's the issue. I want as much as possible even playing field. And when we start doing things like exceptions and carve-outs, it's why guys like Art Laffer, Larry Kudlow, and myself are such a big believer in a broad-based tax reform, because tariffs beg for exceptions. It begs for cronyism. It's a great thing for lobbyists.
And by the way,
I want American manufacturers to have jobs. That doesn't come from tariffs.
You talked about clarity. All of this begs the discussion and the immediate discussion of when are we going to get these tax extensions?
Right.
I mean, right now is the time when we know that we have to give the economy a boost. We have the Bidenomics hangover, which is still with us. I know Democrats don't admit that it exists, but it does. The bottom line that I think everybody agrees with, the economy's not growing as fast as it should grow. And one way we can give a clarity to small businesses in particular is by get that extensions, hopefully make those tax cuts permanent, but at least get them extended so they don't pop up in 2016 on January 1st.
I need to just come in with some breaking news. We're hearing from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying that Trump's tariff policies have begun the process of reorienting our international economic relations. So it's not just foreign relations, it is economic relations in terms of how we are dealing with these countries. Bonson, let me just come to you quickly as we pivot towards the markets, because we've been looking at some decent declines, and we tried to have a pop yesterday. We're rolling over again yesterday, trying to bounce off the lows. The team killed it in my request for the chart of the day. Messy, ugly for air, but they show it anyways because I demand it. You have an S&P 500 bouncing off the 200-day moving average. Don't want to get super technical, but all of that means is that is a very key support level. And if we can't hold that level, if we close below it, you could then see further declines. A lot of people are saying, look, we're at oversold levels, which is what you see at the bottom of that chart. talk us through the emotions in the market and how important some of the technicals are right now as we also balance fundamentals.
Well, I hope I don't upset you because I'm a fundamentalist and not a technician, and
Totally
I
fine.
think the charts are always correct until they're not correct. And I don't think it's holding the 200-day, by the way. I think that in the last half hour it started to break again lower. But no, look, the chart is just going to reflect what is happening. And what's happening is the uncertainty. Jerry talked about the consumer not knowing what's going to happen, whether it's the tax cuts, the tariffs, other issues. But I'm a supply sider. I think the production side of the economy is so important here. And I can't imagine a business owner making decisions right now where they don't know what lumber's going to cost in a month, where they don't know where things stand with the auto sector, with industrials, not to mention the tax cuts. And David, you talked about the Trump cuts being extended. There's a whole lot of other tax cuts that were put out there.
That's right.
That's just table stakes.
That's right.
the bare minimum.
But at least get that done.
You have
at
to get
the
that
very
done.
least get that
But if
done.
they don't get it done till the end of the year, what is the lost opportunity between now and November in terms of capital expenditures and industrial investment?
You know, I think Trump's having moved so fast already has kind of made us all think that he can get things done like in 2 days every time. Okay, I don't think he's given up on tax. What has it been? A month and a half? I don't know. He hasn't given up on tax cuts. He met with the Freedom Caucus guys yesterday to say, get on board. Let's figure this out. He has not lost sight of the economy because he's playing tough on tariffs. And he might be wrong on tariffs. I don't know. But at the end of the day, he ran as a guy who was going to grow the economy and put money in your pocket. And he knows better than anyone else. If he doesn't do that, he and his movement are out. So I give the guy like a little bit of space on this one.
I would just say I agree with you. And I would say like individual investors, consumers don't have to be freaking out. Wall Street is freaking out. Big time stock investors are freaking out because they're marked on how well they do today, in the next hour, in the next month. You don't have to worry about that, right? At the end of the day, this will take a while to play out. We do have to be a little patient with the process.
Give him a look.
You know what? I will say this. I manage $7 billion, and I don't care what happens to the stock market in the next 30 days. But the stock prices are reflecting business expectations further out. And I think that you're exactly right. President Trump does care about this. He's still driving it. The proof is he did get the House vote thing out of committee by one vote with him picking up the phone.
And he talked about it in the State of the Union. He made
did.
a specific reference to extending
I don't think
the
he's
tax
given it up, but I'm just trying to keep it out there because I worry that other things can take priority because he has a very robust agenda. I want this at the top of the list.
Thank goodness he has a robust agenda.
Sure.
I would say. Thank goodness for that.